Hello and welcome to today's presentation. I think I'm going to change the intro music for this in the future, but today we're going to be talking about the Shadow Cat, which is one of those medium mechs that is now pretty omnipresent on clan fronts and a very decent machine overall. It wasn't the most popular machine at the start of the clan invasion because of how it was developed and spread, but over time it became more and more popular, and nowadays if you meet a clan cluster or whatever you are meeting, you are going to be facing some Shadow Cats in some way. So let's get into it. We're going to start with a short history lesson here talking about Omnimechs, because medium Omnimechs were the original Omnimech, really. The Tukayyid at 40 tons was the first machine to implement the full plug-and-play pod system that was pioneered by the Mechwarrior during the Star League era. The Tukayyid was a massive success, obviously, and the ability to reconfigure a mech on the fly is actually quite significant. A lot of people don't realize just how useful it is to be able to deploy a fire support unit one day and a direct fire sniper the other by just moving some parts around. Further evolution of the Omnimech came around, and one of the major one was actually from the Pueblo Initiative, as they called it, making the Omni Crab the Night Chanter at 45 ton, followed by the Ellsworth Nova, which was the first battle mech to be able to carry battle armor into the field. So you can see that the design spectrum of a medium Omnimech is where a lot of innovation took place. During the early clan invasion, at 45 tons, if you saw a mech, the chances were that it was going to be one of those Ice Ferret or Fenrir, as it was called in the Inner Sphere, because that was the one that everybody really had access to. Clan Nova Cat wanted their own machine in that particular weight range, and during the ramp up to Operation Revival during the early 31st century, they released the Nova Cat in the 3003. It did spread to the other clans during that period, but in the invading clans, it wasn't very popular until Clan Nova Cat was brought in to support Clan Smoke Jaguar, and the Nova Cat showed up with the Shadow Cat at the Battle of Luthien, where it did a pretty darn good job, and it was really preeminent during the Battle of Tukayyid, where it did serve Clan Nova Cat really well in their defeat against Comstar. You will hear some clanners, especially some more disgruntled one, call the Battle of Tukayyid the Battle of Comstar Treachery. Try not to keep that against them. The Shadow Cat is a fast medium mech at around 97 kilometers per hour normally, using that ERFM 270 XL engine, but it's tied also to a mask, so it can actually go to about 130 kilometers per hour in a straight line for short periods of time. I would say, it's a fast mech, but if you look at things like the Fenris, it does look a little bit slow. That's just because clan mechs generally are a lot faster than you would expect. The Shadow Cat also has 6 jump jets, allowing it to jump 180 meters, which is pretty decent, giving the mech an extremely wide range of mobility. To save on space, the skeleton is made out of endo steel, and the armor is ferrofibrous alloy, 7 tons of it, which is about equivalent to about 8.5 tons of the standard stuff. You get 10 double heat sinks that are hardwired into the engine. The basic setups generally don't need more than those 10 double heat sinks. In the end, you've got 17 tons of pod space that you can fill out to do pretty much what you want the Shadow Cat to do. Over about 147, 150 years, you've got a lot of different configuration for that 17 tons of pod space. Your very common and standard Shadow Cat is the Prime configuration, which is a mobile sniper, which uses a Gauss rifle with 2 tons of reloads. It's always good to have a medium mech with a Gauss rifle. It will be able to take out larger preys fairly quickly. And at closer range, it's got 2 ER medium lasers, which are perfectly functional to defend itself. It also uses an active probe, so you can use it as a scout, which is a bit weird to have a sniper serving as a scout at the same time, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. On the other end, Configuration A is a Raider with a pair of ER large lasers as their main guns, backed by a Streak 6 SRM to blow up whatever light threats you meet and really threaten vehicles. You get 3 extra eat sinks, so you don't have eat exhaustion at that point, because 2 ER large lasers is going to generate quite a bit of eat. Configuration B is a little bit of an odd duck in my book. It's an EWAR missile boat, which is a weird combination. You get the active probe, you get the ECM suite, and 2 ER medium lasers to cover you at shorter range. To fight at longer range, you've got 2 15-rack LRMs with Artemis guidance with 4 tons of reloads. It's a very decent missile boat at that point. I'm just not sure why they set it up with a lot of EWAR equipment. Configuration C is rather dumb in my opinion, using an arc missile beacon to be able to guide missiles, but it uses as main weapons a pair of 6-tube ATMs, which can't use narc guidance because they're already tied to an Artemis system. The 3 ER medium lasers, which back the whole thing up, are pretty much a lot more useful. This is not a configuration that I've really seen on a lot of Battle ROM from my experience. Clan Novacat did build a special version of the pod system for the Shadowcat for the Battle of Tukayyid. They expected Comstar to deploy a lot of infantry and vehicles, so they built a mech for that. This TC configuration uses a 10 class LBX autocannon with 2 tons of ammo, so you have 1 set of slugs and 1 set of clusters normally, and a 4-tube SRM, which would be very, very good against vehicles. Against infantry, you had a small pulse lasers in the left arm and 1 in the right torso, so that is very good anti-infantry potential as well. I have not seen any mention of this configuration being used anywhere else to my knowledge, but it's not a terrible setup, and it's one that you can probably make in a weekend if you've got the necessary pods for it. After this happened, Clan Novacat kinda sided with the new Star League during the annihilation of Clan Smoke Jaguar, which kinda led them to get kicked out of the Clan homeworlds. One thing though was that the people still liked the Shadowcat, so they kept buying it and kept building it. So it was still produced and shared by just about everyone, but I'm pretty sure our friends in the Clan homeworlds nowadays just don't use it anymore, as they've distanced themselves as much as possible from the Inner Sphere clans. The design is still in production by the Novacats until they were exterminated by Auskurita, because genocidal maniacs are always a problem in the Inner Sphere. Clan Sea Fox typically bought the rights to the design and have been starting to build it and sell it to whoever wants it nowadays. And there's a lot more variants that we're going to cover now. Introduction of heavy laser led to a lot of H configuration for the various Omni-Mechs, and this one uses an heavy large laser tied to a targeting computer. If you have an improved heavy large laser, of course, it's going to work. So you've got a lot of punch right there. To keep things cool, you get 4 extra heat sinks, which you might very well need. And this is backed by a 20 rack of LRM with an Artemis 4 guidance. This makes it a pretty nice mobile sniper / missile boat. Configuration D was also seen during the FedCom Civil War era. It uses an ER large laser in the right arm, in the gun mount, 2 medium pulse laser on the other arm, another medium pulse laser on the left torso, 2 machine guns, and an ER small laser to complement the basic weapon load, and you had a Streak SRM-6 to exploit weakness and armor and blow up tanks. This is a really all-rounder kind of model. I do think it's pretty nice, but maybe taking out those machine guns to add heat sinks or something along those lines wouldn't have been a bad idea. The Jihad was a bit of a rough time for everyone, but there was a base configuration of the Shadowcat that came out during this era, which is configuration J, which I like to call infantry doesn't deserve to live configuration. You got a Beagle active probe to detect infantry. Then you've got 6 AP Gauss rifle to make sure that they don't cause any problem in the future. To back this up, you've got an AG-20 in order to kill things that are pretty far. I mean, in the end, you could have just added more AP Gauss rifles, small pulse lasers, or anything like that to just kill infantry dead. More modern configuration, well, you've got a Cavalry Raider as configuration E using 2 heavy large lasers, generally the improved kind, with 7 extra double heat sinks and 2 cooling pods. If they had access to radical heat sink technology, and I'm not sure how it interacts with pod space, it might have been a better setup. In the end, it's got a tremendous amount of punch. You got a strange support unit with configuration F, which has an ERPPC as its main gun, a Streak SRM-6 for support and tank hunting, and a TS-EMP cannon for police work and disabling targets. It's not bad, it's just something that I find a bit odd. Configuration I is a balanced brawler unit with a pair of ER medium pulse lasers, trademark Clan Wolf, and an improved medium laser from the EVI category, all that tied to a targeting computer. It destroys things that are close by. You also get a pair of Streak 6 Tube SRM, which is pretty damn nasty. Configuration T mounts an Ultra AC-10 with 2 tons of ammo, along with 2 medium pulse lasers, and an active probe to help with scouting. This is a pretty decent model, in my opinion. Clan Jade Falcon did like the Shadow Cat, but they wanted something a little bit more fancy for themselves. So in 3076, they actually unveiled a Shadow Cat 2, which is actually a standard battle mech and not an Omni Mech, which is a 60-ton machine. As a fire support unit, it uses an Hyper Assault Gauss 20 and 2 10 rack LRMs to bring target down at a range, while at shorter range it has an ER medium laser. You really don't have enough reloads on there, but you have 10 double heat sinks to try to keep cool. It does use ferrofibrous armor, endo steel, a massive 360 XL, so you can still go to 97 kilometers per hour like the original Shadow Cat. It's jump capable, but it doesn't have a mask or a supercharger or anything to make it move faster. Not a huge fan of that machine, but I know it exists. I think maybe different configurations of it would have been better, and with the amount of resources spent on it, maybe Clan Jade Falcon should have made it an Omni Mech as well. Before they got exterminated, Clan Nova Cat did introduce the Shadow Cat 3 in 3111. This design is now mostly in the hands of Auscarita now, but it's a pretty good one overall. It's an evolution of the Shadow Cat. What it does is basically take off these built-in jump jets to have them be freed and give you more quad space, and you toughen hide by about a ton, putting 8 tons of ferrofibrous armor, and you keep the mask. It's a pretty decent design, and saving on those jump jets is never a bad idea in my opinion. Most Omni Mechs should not have built-in jump jets. They should always be pod spaced. The prime config of the Shadow Cat 3 is basically a Shadow Cat with a Gauss rifle and 2 medium pulse lasers. There are a few other Shadow Cat 3 configurations. Configuration A uses a pair of ER large lasers for sniping with 8 improved jump jet to bounce really far in a single jump, with 2 extra double heat sinks in order to prevent you from burning up. It kind of matches that configuration A the original Shadow Cat had as well. Configuration B is an EWAR configuration using an active probe and an Angel ECM, which is a little bit stronger than the standard ECM you see around. And for weapon, it uses a pair of targeting computer enhanced ER medium lasers, giving you decent accuracy, and 4 3-tube ATM launchers, which gives you a bit of variety in what you can shoot, but it's a bit light in my opinion. I would probably have gone with something a little bit different. Your mileage may vary. Configuration C is actually a siege breaker with an LB-20X autocannon and an heavy large laser. And in order to make sure that you can get in range in order to shoot that stuff, you also add a supercharger to the engine, which should give you a top speed of about 155 kilometers per hour, something along those lines, which is rather scary. My wife originally piloted a Shadow Cat, but it was so beaten up that we ended up having to scrap it for parts, which is a bit odd for an Omni Mech. We did manage to replace it with a larger Nova Cat, which might be weird for someone from Clan El-Ors, I know, but she really likes both of those mechs. If she were to get back a Shadow Cat, I'm pretty sure she would enjoy it as well. Sometimes I feel that a mask and jump jet built in on the same machine is a bit of a waste, and as I said here, normally for Omni Mechs, I would say just don't build in any jump jet. Just make sure that you can set one up using the pod space. But other than this, I would say here the original Shadow Cat is a really good mech, and that Shadow Cat 3 is even a nice improvement on it, even though there's some technologies that they could have integrated in it that I think would have been fun to use. With Clan Seafox building them again, and the Kuridans always building more using the Nova Cat factories, that they acquired, I'm pretty sure the design will be around for a long time. And as various new weapons and various new designs come out, we're going to keep seeing Shadowcat configurations being modified and improved on. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.